Joining us now on the Heister Automotive Group hotline, Jordan Reid of ESPN, proud North Carolina
from High
Central
Point, North
Eagle,
Carolina.
Proud
Shout
North
out High Point,
Carolinian.
North
So
Carolina.
you know what? Chris is from the 336, by the way. So there's a lot of 336 love going on right here. But proud North Carolina Central Eagle alum, former quarterback at North Carolina Central, joining us here on the Heister Automotive Group hotline. Jordan, you put out an article recently with ESPN regarding quarterbacks in college football for this upcoming year and what they need to do for the NFL draft of 2024. Drake Maye, number one? Drake Maye, number one overall pick?
He's got an opportunity to
Okay.
be the number one overall pick, and you're going to hear two names, him alongside Caleb Williams. Is going to be very similar to what we saw with Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud last year, alternating which guy could go potentially number one or number two overall. So I'm excited to see Drake Maye this year for sure.
Drake Maye. Jordan Reid joining us right now on the Heister Automotive Group hotline. Jordan, what does Drake Maye, of course, a lot of people have Caleb Williams kind of solidly locked in as number one right now. Way too early to really tell because a lot can happen between now and late April of next year. What does Drake Maye need to do to move himself up to number one, to move Caleb Williams out the way?
Well, this is a big year for him just because Carolina had a lot of turnover on the offensive side of the football this year, bringing in a new offensive coordinator. Phil Longo is now gone to Wisconsin. He lost his top target and Josh Downs too. And, Drake didn't play well down the backstretch of the year.
Yeah.
Carolina had a 4-game losing streak, most notably against Clemson in the title game and then also Oregon in the bowl game. But he just needs to show that he can be the catalyst of that offense and just show that he can sustain what he showed in the beginning portions and the middle portions of what we saw last year. He was phenomenal against App State. That was my favorite game of him last year in that crazy multiple overtime game in that one. That was a crazy, crazy game. He was incredible in that game. So if he can play and sustain that type of level throughout the year, I think he's definitely going to challenge Caleb Williams to eventually be the number one overall pick.
Jordan Reid, ESPN, joining us here on the Heister Automotive Group hotline alongside Chris Lee. Dennis Cox here with you. We saw a couple years ago Sam Howell was touted as someone who could be a potentially number one overall pick, ends up being the first pick over in the 5th round a couple years ago. What makes Drake Maye different than what we see with Sam Howell?
I think he's more physically gifted than Sam. He's much bigger at 6'4", 220 pounds. I think he has a stronger arm. He's a little bit further along in his development too, even though he's only going to be a redshirt sophomore this year. The name that he's been most attached to, the scouts that I talked to, is Justin Herbert, and they have a very similar build. He's not quite as big as Herbert. Herbert's about 6'6", 240 pounds, so he's not quite as big as Herbert, but as far as the physical gifts as a runner and then also a passer, I think Drake is definitely there with Herbert, but he just needs to show consistency in that area as far as that level of play, like we saw Herbert when he went back for his senior season.
Too early to tell because we haven't seen what Carolina will look like under their new offensive coordinator. But, of course, one of the things that Carolina wants to do is have a better running game. That's something that Drake Maye didn't have to help support him. How do you think that the Carolina offense, from what you know of it right now, will probably look this year for 2023 differently than what it looked like before in the past?
Well, I think they'll go down the field a little bit more. What you saw last year was that everything was kind of underneath, a lot of quick game, a lot of intermediate stuff, a bunch of RPOs. That's what Phil Longo is really notable for, those run pass options and a lot of what's called sight reads as far as reading one defender, putting them in different predicaments. I think they're going to let him read out and have a little bit more progression-based offense, and that's when he was at his best. When you allowed him to go through those first, second, and even third reads, dumping it down to the running back when he can. So I think you're going to see a little bit more of the drop back passing game as opposed to not as much RPO and quick game passing.
All right, I want your opinion. Who's better, Drake Maye or Caleb Williams? Who's better right now? Put you on the spot. I'm putting you on the spot.
Put me on the spot with this one.
Putting you on the spot on this one.
So I think Caleb is more polished as a passer right now, but as far as who translates better to the NFL, I think Caleb translates a little bit more right now just because of the wizardry that he plays with and the pedigree that he comes from with Lincoln Riley. We saw the success that he has had not only in college but also with NFL quarterbacks too. Just the tutelage that he's under right now with Lincoln Riley. I think he's more suited to translate to the NFL right now, but I don't think you can go wrong with either one of these guys, honestly. I think we're in store for a historic battle with the number 1 and number 2 overall pick.
Just really quick, as let's explore the triangle just a bit. Riley Leonard. A lot of people were kind of shocked on how he looked last year and has a chance to really step up. And then now you have Brennan Armstrong that's going to be here for NC State. When you look around the triangle, NC State, Duke, who do you think outside of Drake Maye could have the best year at quarterback?
Well, I think both of those guys could have really good seasons. And I'll just start with Riley Leonard. And I watched close to 50 quarterbacks, and not counting Drake Maye, Caleb Williams, and some of the guys that are projected to be first-round picks like Michael Penix of Washington, J.J. McCarthy of Michigan. The list goes on and on. Riley Leonard was the one that I was most pleasantly surprised by, just because of just how poised he was in the pocket. And, Duke is a basketball school. We can be honest here, but with the quarterback situation, we saw they've been able to produce Daniel Jones, but that was under Coach Cutcliffe when he was there. But for Riley Leonard to step into the field his first year starting, lead Duke to a 9-win season, the first time since 2014, and the first bowl appearance since 2018, I believe it was. They had an incredible year last year, and he was the one that really orchestrated that offense. He's very poised. He's an underrated runner. He has enough arm strength to, I think, survive in the league. So I'm really interested to see now going into year two how he adjusts and then just how well he unlocks that next stage of his development. But I was really pleasantly surprised with how well he played during his first year. And then Brennan Armstrong, he's one that we could see if he has a bounce back year. He wasn't very good last year just because they had some turnover there. Head coach Tony Elliott, he didn't adjust really well to that offense, but now he's back with this old offensive coordinator when he had that breakout 2021 season. So now being at NC State now, a brand new scenery. He has some explosive weapons on the outside. I'm really interested to see if he can bounce back and show what he showed in 2021.
Let's go to a couple of other quarterbacks who have been here in the Triangle previously. Jordan Reid, ESPN, joining us here on the Heath Automotive Group hotline. Sam Hartman from Wake Forest going to Notre Dame. Devin Leary leaving NC State, going to Kentucky, going to different situations. Sam Hartman, that mesh point stuff that they ran at Wake Forest all the time, he's going to be in a completely different offense. Is this obviously this is last year of eligibility. Does he actually have the physical tools, you think, to be in the NFL consistently, whether that's a long-time career backup or maybe even developing into an average NFL starter? Also, same thing with Devin Leary.
Yeah, I don't think he has starter-level traits, honestly, but if you're talking about someone that's very poised, very efficient, especially in the deeper portions of the field, I think Sam Hartman can be that guy, whether it's late round or eventually being a UDFA, undrafted free agent pickup for a team. I think he has the tools necessary to hang on as a backup or a practice squad type of guy. But if you're expecting a starter type of player, I don't think he's going to be that. But I'm really intrigued to see how he plays at Notre Dame, especially being out of that what I call walk the dog offense, of where it's just an elongated mesh of where he's just sustaining at the mesh point with the running back. So now being in a true drop back pass offense that really tests those intermediate areas of the field, I think he has the opportunity to now prove that he can be that type of passer, which is what everybody wanted to see, just because that was the big question about him. That offense that he was running, it was very unconventional. So him going to that offense with the Irish, he's going to have an opportunity to show that he can play in more of a traditional offense of what he's going to be asked to do on the next level. And then with Devin Leary, it's just a matter of him just staying healthy. He has a very experienced offensive coordinator in Liam Cohen, who had a lot of success with Will Levis. And we saw Will Levis eventually go on to be a second-round pick. But when Will Levis was at his best, he was under the tutelage of Liam Cohen. So him going and getting experience last year with Sean McVay, a brief stint with the Los Angeles Rams last year, only spending 1 year there. Now back in Kentucky, I'm interested to see what Devin Leary can do under his watch.
All right. Before we let you go, Jordan, this is the part where, since you're from High Point, North Carolina, I want to just bond with you a little bit. I'm a Southwest Cowboy myself, but we can put that aside and just kind of bond really quick on this. Best biscuits in the state, Biscuit Factory or Biscuitville?
Oh, Biscuit Factory, without question. Just because
told you about Biscuit Factory before.
Chris has told me about Biscuit Factory. I need to check out Biscuit Factory out there in the Triad.
But here's the thing, though. Even though it's called Biscuit Factory, the lunch is very good, too. The burgers are great. The hot dogs are great. Everything is good. I've never had anything bad coming from Biscuit Factory. So next time you go to High Point, Chris, make sure you take them to Biscuit Factory. It's amazing. And then the biscuits, they weigh like 5 pounds. It's like grandma's old biscuits, where they're huge. You open up the paper, and the biscuit is just hanging off the outside of the paper. So make sure to take them to Biscuit Factory, Chris.
Okay. And it's not just the biscuit, too. Like, the filling inside of the biscuit is going to be large as well. So
I'm sold. I'm sold, Jordan. Thank you for your time. Again, check out Jordan's work on ESPN.com. He has an article up there right now regarding NFL draft prospects, guys that are playing in college right now, breaking down guys from here in the ACC, everyone that we just talked about. Jordan, thanks for your time. Really do appreciate it. We'll talk to you in the near future.
Thank you, Jordan.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.